there guys, this is me, Malorian, and today we're going to try and make Magnus1 great again. Now the reason why we're even talking about Magnus1 is because yesterday on the Mercenary forums, Mercs posted up that, hey, they're getting interested in this Magnus1. What type of inspiration is out there? What type of lists are you playing? And it was pretty quiet. You know, you had some questions, some answers just like no and stuff like that. But the big thing is that nothing really came up for the most part because people don't play Magnus1. So what I thought I'd do in this video here is talk about what Magnus1 is, because I'm sure there's a lot of players out there who have never played against him. And then we'll talk about why mercenary players don't play him. But then, more importantly, we're going to end this video talking about the ways you can use him and try and get the most out of what his toolkit is. So let's start off by looking at Magnus the Trader, Magnus1. So what he is a 6 focus caster. He's speed 5, so a little bit slower, strength 6, mat 7, rat 6, defense 14, armor 17. So right off the bat, we're a little bit over the curve. So usually your defense and your armor adds up to 30. This one's 31. It's a little bit more extra armor there. Command 9, that doesn't really come in. He has a scatter gun for a ranged weapon. It's a spray 8, rate of fire 1, pow 12. He also has foe cleaver, so that's his sword thing. And it's not like Magnus 2 where it has armor pierce, but what it does have is pow 13 magical, and it also has powerful attack. So that's going to help really make sure that if you're trying to get some damage done, one focus, you get the boost to hit, boost damage. He also has his mechanical arm, only half-inch range with that little left hook of his. It's only a POW 11, but it has auto knockdown. So that can be pretty nice too. 17 boxes, 30 jack points. That's pretty nice, getting some extra jack points in there. And what he has is, for some extra rules, he has Feign Death. So if he ever gets knocked down, he can't be targeted with any range or magic. He has Backstab. He can actually repair himself. It's one of these weird ones where you wouldn't really expect it on the model. I'm pretty sure he didn't have it in Mark II, but he can repair D3+1, so that's pretty nice to have. Another nice to have rule on him is Resourceful. So any upkeep that he has on his battle group, he upkeeps for free. So that can be huge. Now otherwise, the spells that he's going to have is Ancantric Bolt. So this is a cost 2, range 10, POW 12. And the major thing here is that if you ever damage a Warjack, you're going to stationary it. So there are some times that can be really nice. We also have Blur. So with Blur, that means that it's a cost 2, range 6 upkeep, and target friendly faction model unit gets +3 defense against range and magic attack rolls. So pretty nice to have if you're trying not to be shot down. Death Ward, this is one that's pretty rare. Cost 2, range 6. This thing is a target friendly model unit, gains +2 armor, and for this, if it's a Warjack, if it's ever damaged, you pick what column it goes to. So it really helps making sure that whatever key thing you don't want to lose, they keep it for as long as possible. Iron Aggression, this one another cost 2, range 6 upkeep. He's going to have lots of upkeeps, which again, keep in mind, Resourceful in your mind there. Target friendly, faction Warjack can run, charge, slam, trample, do power attacks without spending focus, but they also gain boosted melee attack rolls. So some more focus efficiency in there. He has Scourge, which is a cost 4, range 8, AoE 3, POW 13, but the biggest thing here is that models hit by this attack are knocked down. So that could be pretty interesting. And then finally Snipe, so another cost 2, range 6 upkeep, and this one, target friendly faction model units, range weapons, gain +4 range. Okay, so a lot of different spells on there, tons of upkeeps, but what's the feat? And I'll tell you right now, this feat that really bothers a lot of people playing mercenaries. So his feat is called Hit and Run. Models in Magnus' battle group currently in his control range can make a full advance or run after all friendly models have completed their activations this turn. Warjacks do not have to spend focus to run during this movement. Additionally, while in Magnus's control range, models in his battle group gain parry, and hit and run lasts for 1 round. So the real problem with Magnus, and the reason why people don't like him, is just the idea that he's not very flashy. If you're looking at the things he does, he's not explosive. You know, he's not a Sloan. He's not a you get to take double the shots. It's not all my things get boosted attack rolls. He gets his battle group to move again. And if you look at the way that it's actually worded, like the name of the feat, it's hit and run. So what it seems like it wants you to do is charge in, do some damage, and then get out of town. Hit and run, and then all of a sudden they can't reply against you. And to be fair, you can use the feat like that, but it's just really, You know, you compare it to something like Magnus 2, where, how about this? I'll get the alpha in, and then you're just going to be locked down. I'm not going to give up any board space or anything, but you're not going to attack me because you can't move. And the biggest thing here as well is just the fact that it's only your battle group. It's not all your models, it's only your battle group. So whereas with other stuff, like again, Magnus 2, if I lock you down, that's kind of protecting all my stuff. Well, with this, it's only protecting my battle group. And so it's really that feat. I feel the feat is the big thing that when people look at it, they're just like, man, I don't want it. And that's it. They ignore it. They look to other things like Magnus 2, and that's where the conversation ends. They don't look to see what you could build with them or anything. Now, I'm going to say that there was a while that I was having a lot of success with Magnus1 and what it was with, and I want you to hold on because I'm going to tell you why this was good and why it's no longer good. Sorry, my throat's bugging me a bit this morning. And that is with Buccaneer spam. So how this used to work with Magnus is that you didn't charge in and then run away. You ran forward and ran forward again. So with this, you take a bunch of Buccaneers, and then basically when you pop feet, you're going up 24 inches. Your Buccaneers would run 12, and then they would run 12 again. And the jam was crazy. When there were only 6 points, you got tons of them. They're all rushing up the board, covering all of the scenario, and you could win very easily. Remember, there was a time where you needed to get 5 control points to win. Not 5 more than your opponent, just 5. So if I set this line of battle so far ahead that you're having a hard time to contest, it was very easy to just lock you out, score. You might score 1 defensively somewhere. Who cares? I'm going to get to 5. I'm going to win. Now, if you look on, one of the things I was like bragging is if you look on Discount Games, that's one of the few lists on Magnus1 that's on there. Is the time that I brought that to a tournament, it did fairly well. But the big thing is that list doesn't work anymore. When Mark posted this up, I threw like an updated version there, but the honesty of the situation is that list doesn't really perform anymore. And the reason for that is several reasons. One, like we just said, you need to have 5 more points, and that can be very difficult to try and pull off. Secondly, there's a lot more incorporeal now. So all these gremlin swarms and stuff like that you're seeing, they just go through, they run through your lines, they contest, and again, whereas before, sure, you contested one thing, but I kill you and I'm still marching my way to 5 points. Now, contesting and losing that race for being 5 more can be super critical. Also, things hit a lot harder now than they did before, and things are a lot more accurate, and we have a lot more things like we're seeing Ragman a lot more, we have Hermit, and so going up there with these now 7-point Buccaneers, they just get smashed. So not only do you run into lists and they just kind of like run right through you and contest what they need, but secondly, they just destroy everything that you put in their face. You're not really jamming them to the same efficiency that you could before. In Privateer Press, this is why I threw a big deal where Buccaneers are 7 points, because they should not be just 1 point less than an Archon. But that's a different rant for a different day. So that's why Magnus1 is not working and not being played. People are looking at that feat saying meh, moving on, and even the strategies that worked before are no longer working. Well, that's a big downer. So Malorian, where are we going with this? What can we actually do with this caster? Well, let's do that now. Instead of just saying, ho-hum, that's a boring feat, what can we do with it? Well, what I want to talk about is, what can you do with his skill set? And remember that it is actually fairly interesting if you just look at what he has before the feat. If we imagine that maybe there was like an interesting feat coming on, and we just were looking at his special rules and spells, there's a lot of upkeeps there, there's a lot of focus efficiency there, and clearly what this caster wants to do is something with the battle group, but it's just not jamming with Buccaneers anymore. Well, let me tell you this. What if I told you that his feat is no longer a feat? His feat was now going to be rewritten as Magnus1 has no feat. Instead, your deployment zone is extended 10 inches. What? That could make things a lot more interesting. Think of it this way. What if instead of we taking jam, what instead we took aggressive jacks? What if we took things that were made to attack, and we designed this list to go first and feat on the first turn and start way up the board? So what that really means is that if we go first and we're 7 inches up, sorry, there's going to be some math in this one, and we start 7 inches up, we can feat with a regular heavy that's speed 5. It can run up 10, and from the feat, running up 10 again. That means that before our opponents do anything, we are going to be 27 inches up the board with our heavies. And that's a really big deal. You know, that means that, of course, that they're going up 10 inches, 10 plus 27 is 37, there's only 48. That means that before our opponents do anything, we have heavies that are 11 inches away from their deployment line. And we can very easily, with that 20 inches of movement, redeploy as well. So if our opponents, of course, going second, counter deploy anything, we can quickly crisscross, do whatever we need to set up the matches we need. If we wanted our heavies to be going after their Colossal, and their Colossal's hiding on one side, we're going to head up way over there. So I think that's the big thing that we want to start with this idea crafting, is that we are not going to be making a jam Magnus list. We are going to be making a aggressive Magnus1 list that wants to go first, it wants to get in your face, and then it wants to tear you apart. So what are we going to put in this Magnus list? Well, before we get there, what theme are we going to do with this? And I think the biggest thing that you want to think about when what theme you want to take Magnus1 is that what is one of our priorities? We have to go first. And the theme that's going to be helping the most with that is going to be your regulars, because then you can get re-rolls to go first. And of course, when we're going in on that strategy, that means we also need Anastasia. Now, if we have Anastasia, that means that we're getting +1 to go first, re-rolled. So our odds of going first are extremely high. We have a very good chance of going first and having this scenario that we are planning for. So, okay, we know we're doing Magnus1, we know we're going to be doing it in irregulars, and we also have 3 points of Anastasia plugged in as well. Now, when we're trying to plan these things out, remember that we wanted to have a big battle group, but at the same time, as much as I love the Blockader, we probably don't want the Blockader. If we took the Blockader and all these heavies, and all the other heavies ran up, and our Colossal is 10 inches behind, it's not going to be relevant. It's too far back. So we're not going to be spending any points on a Colossal. At the same time, we really want something to put Snipe on. Snipe is a very good spell. And if we look at what's available there in irregulars, well, there's actually a very good range unit to use, and that is the Idrian Skirmishers. So if we take the Idrian Skirmishers, they're not moving that 20 inches, but they are getting advanced deploy, and then from that, well, they can run up, they can get sniped, and they're going to threaten everything. The biggest thing that we have to worry about with all these heavies trying to go in is our heavies getting bogged down with infantry. So what we want to do with that then is have a whole bunch of things like these Idrians so that we can just threaten the world and clear that out. And the nice thing is too, is that once we run up on that first turn, our opponent now can basically go almost nowhere. We can shoot into their deployment zone next range. So they're kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Alright, so we have our Adrian skirmishers, of course with UA, because we want to have prey out there. We have Anastasia. Well, let's start working our way through the rest of this. Well, when I started looking at this, one of the things I decided that I wanted to take was focus efficiency. At the end of the day, we're going to need to have a lot of heavies doing a lot of work, and even with resourceful, we're going to need to have focus to give to these. So one of the things that we can do in this is we can take Silas. Now, Silas seems weird because we're getting free upkeeps, but that's only going to be on our actual battle group. That spell, the snipe that we're putting onto the Idrians, that's not free. So having Silas and getting one free focus basically is a big deal. Plus, if you ever want to try and get that Scourge or something like that, he's going to help with that too. As well, I want to be adding Bam Fist, because Bam Fist is a way that we can empower and give one focus. And I'm also going to be taking Widget. And Widget, again, basically lets me give out a focus. Alright, so we're looking pretty good. We're getting there. What else are we going to be taking with this? Well, I think one thing that's an auto-include is our first heavy is going to be the Mangler. Now, the reason why I like the Mangler in this list is Iron Aggression. The Mangler with Iron Aggression is getting the charge for free double. So that part of the spell doesn't really help it very much. But it's that boosted attack rolls, which is major. Because what you can do with that is Thresher. It can charge in, it can do its star attack Thresher, you get the boost to hit with all of those, and then of course it's POW 18. So what this guy is just a unit destroyer. If you're up against shield wall, sorry, I ignore your shields, and I'm just going to destroy everything there. So it's a pretty good jack to have in general, because it's a pretty good aggressive jack that gets a charger free for, regardless. But, in something where we're going to be taking a lot of heavies, getting up there, and clearing out infantry might be an issue, very important jack to have. Past that, I decided to take a bunch of Tauros, because Tauros, let's face it, is one of the best things you can take there in a faction for the point cost. You could, if you wanted, go with Nomads to save that 1 point if you want to put something somewhere else. But to me, if you have the point, throw it on there, get that extra point of armor, get counter charge. It's worth it. So I threw in 4 Tauros in there, and then I also threw in a Talon. Now the reason why I threw in the Talon is that we actually still need a little bit of jam. We still need something so that we can focus, we can do a lot of damage, but we know we're going to be hit back after. And so we have to be in a situation where we can deal with that. And the nice thing is that if we take our Talon and put that Death Ward onto it, well, it's going to get +2 armor. We're going to be deciding what columns are lost, so we can make sure we lose a shield last. And now this Talon can run wherever we need, so if there's weapon masters, if there's whatever, we're locking them down and keeping them away from our main line, our main Tauros and our Mangler that are doing the most of the work. So having a model like that is fairly important to have. Now again, if you really wanted to, you could be saving points here, making all those Nomads. Then you have 4 more points to go into that, and then you're still 1 point away from making another Nomad. But, you could always do that as well if that's the way you want to go. Now, there's a cool piece of tech that I want to put in here as well. And if you remember, Alcantric Bolt stationaries jacks. Now, that can be very good because Merc jacks are only mat 6. So if you need to hit, sometimes these even like defense 13 jacks are a real problem. So if you stationary them, that helps a lot. But usually on their turn, they're going to shake it and they're going to keep on going. Well, there's a thing we can do to stop that, and that is Iris 1. If we put Iris 1 in this list, we have an interesting interaction here where what we can do is actually stationary a jack, disrupt it, and now it can't get the focus to shake the disruption. So it's kind of an investment, you know, of trying to hit it with this spell, and I believe you have to damage it as well. I want to make sure I'm not lying to you guys, and the full thing's here. You do have to damage it, so odds are you're going to have to boost the damage, but if I can take Imperatus and be like, Imperatus, you're not doing anything, you're staying over there, or some other really scary heavy that I just don't want to deal with, spell, disrupt, ignore. And I mean, if nothing else, even if I'm not doing this whole Alcantric Bolt thing, disrupting a heavy is still a pretty big deal. So Iris1 and making sure like a heavy is not going to have focus to retaliate against you, very important to have. Otherwise, the only things I got in here is I had 2 points left over at the end, so I threw in a Goblin Tinker, and I also threw in Ragman. But the interesting thing about Ragman is that even though he's letting you hit harder, he's going to be slow. He's going to be there at the end. You know, you're going to be rushing up your 20 inches first turn, and he's going to go 12. So I kind of feel like Ragman in this list that I made here, you could probably even put that somewhere else too. You might be putting that into the Talon, and maybe downgrading one Toro and making another, you know, Nomad or something like that. So, of course, this is not like the one list. There's things you can play with. And I think another piece of this puzzle that you might want to consider is just the fact that remember, there's a special Magnus Jack that only he can take, and that is the Renegade. And what the Renegade is it's an arc node, and as a one-time shot, that's a POW 16 and auto knockdowns. So not only do you have this arc node to try and put these things where you need, but that POW 16 auto knockdown can be pretty crazy. There's a lot of cases where it's between Scourge or the shot knockdown. If you knock down that caster and you have all these Idrians with snipe, there's a good chance, especially if it's prayed as well, you're just going to shoot down that caster and just kill it. So again, there's lots of ways you can play here, but I believe that if you take this Magnus1, you make an aggressive battle group, take something to put snipe on, throw on some other focus efficiency and stuff in there too, and just read that feat in your mind that you're going to be starting the game past the starting, like the half line of the board. All of a sudden, that's making things so much different. You're saying that if your opponent takes any step forward, you're going to charge them. And of course, you're not going to be stupid, right? If your opponent can be, you know, charging and threading whatever, you're probably going to stay just outside of that, right? and not just by giving them free charges first turn, but you want to set that line up and say, look, I'm in the middle of the board. I am standing by all the scenario. So either you stay away and I'll shoot you and just keep on scoring, or you can come here and I'm going to start countercharging you and I'm going to start ripping you apart. And all of a sudden, if you look at it that way, that's not so bad. That's something you can play with. That's something that, if nothing else, is interesting and different and new. You almost want to go and play this game from their side of the board. Imagine that. Imagine if after turn one, you and your opponent were side by side standing on their side, because that's where all the models were, was on their side of the board. So, you know, that's the type of game this could actually be. So there you go, Mark. I hope this gives you some inspiration. I always hate it when people post things up and there's like, no, that thing's stupid, don't play it. It's always good to at least put some thought in it. So there you go, guys. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments and thoughts on this, please post it down below. And otherwise, we'll catch you later. Bye.